regardless of whether you're searching for your authentic self or your higher self, these techniques I think are really useful. First thing, stop the noise. When I say cut out the noise, what I'm referring to is the kind of background white noise that is just constantly going on from other people and their opinions, whether that is through the media, through the news. If you're watching the news, like, why? Definitely get rid of that. Through social media, through books that you might pick up, even through friends and acquaintances and colleagues. Everybody has an opinion and everybody has something that they want to offer. And if you are trying to educate yourself or you have genuine questions on something, then yeah, sure, by all means, seek out somebody else's opinion. But if you are trying to make it a priority to get back in touch with yourself, then it's really important to get rid of all of that noise so that you can give yourself the space to think and to actually hear your inner voice. So it might look like doing a cull on social media and not following Kim Kardashian or I don't know, whoever the latest popular person is these days. Or it might look like getting rid of social media altogether. It might look like being very selective with your friends and the company that you keep. I know that certainly in my life there are some people with some very strong opinions and they love to impress those opinions on other people. And I personally feel much better when I am not in their company and I don't have to be bombarded with that energy and those thoughts, because you have to be really good at some kind of mental jiu-jitsu in order to fight off all of the opinions that people want to be constantly projecting onto you. So it's best to just give yourself some space. Remove yourself or take away the possibility that you might have to listen to a voice that isn't yours. Because if you can create a calm external environment and enough peace within, if you're not busy processing all of these external influences, then you have the time and space to focus on your own energy and your own thoughts. The second thing that you can do is, if you find yourself in an interaction with somebody, or if you find yourself in a position where you're having to make a decision about something, then just pause and give yourself some time and some space to either respond or to make that decision. And when you make this pause, take the time to actually check in with what you are thinking and what you are feeling. I will literally stop and ask myself, what do I think about this? Or what do I feel about this? And I think this is a really important thing to do, especially in modern society, which just seems to be so fast-paced, and before you know it, things can kind of run away with themselves. So it's really important to sort of consciously carve out a little bit of time and space, even if it's only just for a few moments. It's really important to just focus on slowing down so that you actually do have the capacity to make better choices. And again, just by taking a second or two to pause and check in with yourself and find out what you want, you are giving yourself the opportunity to come forward and speak internally and to demonstrate what it actually is that you want. And this habit is especially important for people pleasers, because people pleasers just tend to kind of roll with it. They go with the flow. They respond to other people or respond to any decisions that they have to make based on a program. And it's the program of how they think they should act rather than how they really want to act. And they get used to constantly bypassing what they want and bypassing their needs. And so the program of pleasing others can actually force them to act in ways that are to the detriment of themselves. So just by taking a moment to pause before responding to somebody or before making a decision, this can actually help to create a break in the cycle of the programming And so not only do they get more in tune with themselves by understanding what they actually want and what their needs are, but it's also a start on undoing this people-pleasing program that just really isn't any good for anybody. And the third and final thing that we can do to understand who we truly are is inner child work. Take yourself back to childhood and have a look at who you actually were before anything was impressed upon you or before you took on anybody else's bullshit. So look at things like, who were you? What did you like to do? What was your view of the world and what did you believe to be true? You can even consider your teenage years and have a look at the kind of interests that you had there. Particularly the things that maybe you didn't do or weren't allowed to do during childhood, but you naturally found yourself growing into or developing an attraction towards when you were a teenager. Now, I do have to say, when it comes to the teenage years, you have to be very careful with the sort of information that you extract from them. Because as teenagers, quite frankly, most of us get up to some really bizarre shit. And that shit is just not relevant to who we are as adults. So you have to be kind of quite discerning when it comes to deciding what you need to leave behind, what was an absolute disaster, and what was actually you genuinely trying to come out and express itself and have some freedom within the world. So just be careful with the stuff that goes on with a teenager, because it's not always an indication of who you really are. And if you had an unstable upbringing, then I would be even more careful, because there can be things that occur there that are acts of rebellion and not necessarily an indication of who you truly are. But this is something for you to contemplate, and only you can ultimately be the judge of which aspects were you and which weren't. So I know that for myself, there are things that I started for the first time as a teenager that actually are part of who I am. But then I also did a lot of dodgy shit as well, which we don't need to talk about. But certainly the person that I was up until about 7 years old seems to be a pretty good approximation of who I actually am. Unfortunately, beyond the age of 7, I seem to have collected a lot of programming and a lot of opinions and beliefs that just don't belong to me. And now it is my work to undo all of that crap.